So today, I'm going to try something a little different than what is normal for me. I am deciding to record a video about the podcast that I listened to today from Brian Buffini. The podcast was about listening and how we don't do that very well as people. If you're doing these things, you're not listening. Number one is the automatic teller machine, or the ATM, which is automatically telling your story in response to someone else's story. You know, people that do that. You tell them a story and they've got to one up you on their story. When are you going to finish telling your story, your boring story, so that I can tell my exciting one? And the gentleman on the podcast said that he was telling a story to a gentleman, and he was talking about his dad having to have back surgery. And as he's telling this gentleman about his dad having back surgery, this gentleman interrupts him and starts telling him about his dad who's having to have back surgery. And the first gentleman told the second gentleman, you know what? I don't care about your dad and his back surgery. And I don't care because you interrupted me. Is a very cold and calculated way to be, but I understand his stance because that's rude, point blank. And here is a listening challenge for you all. The next time someone tells you a story that is important to them, don't tell your story. Period. Not at all. Which means after they're done, just listen and hold space for them. And don't try to tell them that you have a story of your own in that way. The second one is called the FAR problem, or formulating a response. And that is thinking about what you are going to say while the other person is talking. I talk to people routinely about this issue, which is the whole talking stick method of conversation. I have the stick, you listen, you have to repeat back to me what I said once I hand you the stick. And if you get anything wrong, I get the stick back and I get to repeat my comment, hand it back to you, and you then get to respond or get to state what I stated, or repeat what I stated rather. The reason is this: the brain cannot do two things at one time. So you cannot actively listen and be paying attention and be formulating your reply or your response. And usually this is in the midst of an argument, but you can't form your counter argument and be actively listening to what the other person is saying at the same time. Talking stick. Number 3 is sentencing, which is finishing people's sentences. And here's the issue with that. As people, we can talk at about 125 words per minute, but we can listen at about 400 to 500 words per minute. So, as some people are calculated and take their time about what they're going to say, other people don't. They don't have the patience for you to be calculated, basically. The fourth would be Mr. Fix-It, solving the problem or people's problems for them when they didn't ask you to solve their problem. The fifth one would be reassuring, which is similar to the Fix-It, but the person just wanted you to listen. They needed to unburden. Sometimes people will call you and they just want to unload. And that's what they'll do. They just unload. They just want to get whatever's on their chest off their chest. And so they just want you to sit and listen, and you don't need to have a response. That's it. Number 6 would be what they call playing God, which is listening for the right and wrong to insert opinion. I know I am very guilty of this. listening for the facts about what a person is saying. And so that is something that I know I need to work on better when it comes to listening when people are telling me and inserting my opinion as a result. The fact of the matter is that other people don't see the world the way that you do. I loved what he said in here. He said, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? I just recently wrote on the Road Less Traveled to Wellness blog. I didn't write it that way. Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? What I wrote is, do you want to be right or do you want to do right or do what's right? Number 7 is the me, turning the conversation back to yourself no matter what it's about. He said something along the lines of, let's talk about you. What do you think about me? That's a lot of people who can be self-focused in that regard. And the 8 is mind reading, thinking that you know what the other person's intentions are. And it's best to check with them instead of making an assumption. He said here, when you did this, the assumption I made is, and I always like to use Brene Brown's version of that same thing, is when you did this or when you said this, the story I'm telling myself is such and such, right? And we are quick to tell ourselves stories in the absence of facts. And so it's best to get the facts first before you start telling yourself stories, and you can get those stories cleared up and clarified from the person that you need to get them from. That is it as far as listening is concerned. I think that listening is a skill that takes a lot of practice. In this world of me first, let's try to practice a little bit of you first by being patient and listening. Thank you.